Hi, everyone. I am Rebecca Nadelka, and people always ask me, why do you call yourself the Realtor Mom? What does that even mean? No, it's not a gimmick. It's not some marketing scheme. It's really who I am and how I operate and how I run my business. So I feel like every client is kind of treated like my kids. I'm going to try to teach them about the process and really make sure that they understand what it is that they're doing. So in this next episode here, I'm going to kind of dig into what that means, what it means for my clients, what it means for anybody who works with me. So I'm sure by now everybody knows I have a daughter, Jade, and a son, Anthony. And over the years, let's be honest, they've made some really dumb choices. And when they come to me and they want to do something dumb, I'm not like, oh yeah, that's a great idea. You should go out and do that. No, I'm probably saying something like, that's really dumb. You might want to do this instead. Or if you do that, this is probably what's going to happen. Ultimately, it's their decision, but as their mom, I'm going to try to guide them into better choices. That's kind of how I treat my clients. I'm going to guide them into what I think is the best choice for their situation. Obviously, it's always up to them what decisions they make ultimately, but my job as a realtor for them is to make sure that they understand what their choices could lead to, and that's both positive and negative. You know, when we look at a house, they might say, oh my God, I love everything about this, but when we're looking at that house, I'm going to try to find the flaws. I'm going to try to find the things that might be an issue for them down the road. That doesn't mean that they can't move forward with it, and that doesn't mean that there's not a solution for it, but trying to protect them, my clients, like I protect my children, is how I run my business. So ultimately, it's a realtor mom, guiding them through every decision, everything that they make throughout the transaction. I'm not going to coddle them. I'm not going to be super soft about things. Of course, I'm going to be respectful, and I'm not going to be just flat out rude, but it's going to be tough love. When you're buying a house, you have to be honest, even if it's not the most comfortable thing to do. So when I work with my clients, I want them to know that I truly have their back. My kids, they know that I have their back. Even if they do something wrong, it's not that I'm going to disown them or anything. And let's be honest, we all know the path that Anthony's been on, and I mean, he's doing great, and I've never disowned him. Tough love sometimes, sure. Sometimes it's just making them figure out how their choices have consequences and let them reflect on it. I'm just trying to present that information to my clients in the most professional and best way that I know how for their ultimate best case scenario in the end. So it's, as a mom, what I do. I try to protect you. I try to guide you and just tell you the truth. I'm not sugarcoating things, telling you what you want to hear, because unfortunately, I think there's too many people out there that do that. And when you're buying a home, that's not what buyers need. And when you're selling a home, that's not what a seller needs. So really, when it comes down to it, I'm going to protect you in the real estate transaction like I protect my kids, hence the realtor mom. So I think in our industry, most people, most realtors, in order to get the business, earn the client, they tell them what they want to hear. And I think that's a huge problem. So we've come off of a market where things were absolutely the seller's market. Sellers were getting $20,000, $30,000, $40,000, $50,000 over list. So when that market shifted, it left sellers with the expectation that their houses were worth all this money, really high. They come in and they're like, well, I feel like I can get $400,000 for my house. Some agents are going to be like, yeah, sure, I can do that. But really, if the house and the comparables and the market supports maybe 350, some agents will just say, yeah, we can sell it for 400, when the reality is that's not true. So then what happens? The seller signs with that agent because they said, oh, well, I can get you 400. And I'm coming in and I'm saying, well, realistically, this is why I came up with the 350. These are what's recently sold. These are what's most similar. This is where the market is. And because they told you 400, you went that direction. Well, what ultimately happens? You list it for 400. A couple weeks go by and you just don't have that traction. Now we've been on the market for 2 weeks and nothing. So your agent's like, oh, we should probably drop the price. Okay, so you drop it. Well, I think most people realize that days on market equals reduced price. So now you're getting to the point where your house has been sitting, you've had to drop the price, and maybe in 2 weeks, you only dropped it $10,000. So instead of 400, you're at 390. The value is still really at 350. You're going to keep dropping, and ultimately, you're probably going to sell it for less than you would have had you priced it correctly from the beginning. I'm going to be the one that tells you what I truly believe your value should be and where it should be listed. And the reason for that, like, why would I try to get you to sell it for 400,000 knowing that it's not going to sell for that? I want to get you the most amount of money. I'm going to make more money too. So like ultimately pricing your house strategically and correctly, I get it. Sellers want the most, but an agent that can give it to you honestly and straight is going to get you more money for your property than an agent that just goes along and tells you what you want to hear. That's the reality. And unfortunately, that's the problem with some realtors, is just telling you what you want to hear so they get you to sign their contract. They care about the commission, not you as the seller. And so that's where I come in, and I'm going to be honest with you. And maybe I don't get the deal, and that's okay, because when it's sitting on the market and it eventually expires, hopefully you're going to call me back, or I'm going to reach out to you and say, hey, I see your listing expired. Do you want to chat now? I'll give you a refresh of where we are today. And maybe it's not even 350 anymore. Maybe the market dropped even further, or maybe now it went up and now I think we can get 370. So the bottom line is, when you work with me, you're going to get the realtor mom in me, and who's going to price it honestly and fairly. And I'm ultimately going to always have your best interest, just like I do my kids. So selling your home, biggest transaction. You deserve to have somebody on your side that's truly going to do what they can for you as the client. There's times when my kids will, want to go buy this or do this. And, ultimately it's their decision. It's the same thing in a real estate transaction. Ultimately, it's your decision. But as an agent, I also have a choice on whether I'm going to work with you or not. If my goal is to help you and you're resistant to my professional advice or what I think will work best to get your house sold, and you just want something totally different, it's okay that I walk away and say, look, I don't think I can do what it is that you're asking. And I will do that. Maybe we'll do a strategy where, okay, I'll let you try it at your price for a couple weeks, but if in 2 weeks it doesn't sell, we have to drop it here. I've done that before, but I'm going to tell you up front, it's very likely that after 2 weeks, even when we drop it, people are going to come in with a lower offer just because they know your house is sat. So when I give you the advice, it truly is coming from a protection of my client and doing what I can to get them that top dollar, treating them like I treat my children, to do what's best for them. It might not always be the most favorable opinion at the moment. However, it's honest, and that's what sellers deserve, buyers deserve, when they're working with probably the single most expensive transaction of their life, like your house. What else are you going to buy more that's more expensive than a house? You might buy a car, you might buy a boat, but at the end of the day, your house is where the majority of your money goes. So Another way, like with a seller or a buyer, when we look at your property, I'm going to be honest with you about things that I think should be fixed to increase your home value. If you're selling a property, I'm not going to tell you you have to renovate the kitchen to get it sold. No, but you might need to clean the scuff marks off the wall, or you might have peeling paint around the door trim. And I'm going to ask you, you know what? If you want to accept an FHA buyer, you're going to need to paint the peeling paint that's around the doors or the windows. If you have a leaky faucet, or if you have an outlet that's in the kitchen by the sink and it's not GFCI protected, well, if you want to take an FHA buyer, those are things that my expectations are you're going to fix. We can say that you're selling it as is, but then understand that's going to get you a lower offer ultimately. So when I meet with you to kind of figure it out, I want to know what your goals are. What are your ultimate goals? Just like when my kids go to make a decision, what are their goals? What are you trying to get from the outcome? That's how I'm going to move forward with you in the transaction, figuring out what it is that you need, what it is that you want for yourself, and then how I can help make that happen. I think one of the biggest things, as I mentioned already, is overpricing your house. That is probably in this market one of the worst things that you can do. Overpricing is going to lead to stale listings and overpaying. Sometimes for a buyer, I think I give every client that I work with when it comes to a buyer, how badly do you want the house? It's an honest question. If we look at a property that's $300,000, and I know from talking to the listing agent that there's been a lot of activity and they've got multiple offers on the table, there are still situations in the current market where we need to offer over. If you want the property, that's just where we're at. So I'll ask a buyer, at what point would you be disappointed that you didn't go up in your offer? Meaning it's listed at 300. If you offer 305 and you lose, and then when it closes, you see that it sold for 307, how are you going to feel? Are you going to come back to me and say, oh, I would have gone 307? Well, then that should be the top point of your offer. If you went in at 305 and you find out it was 307 and your response is, nah, I wouldn't have paid that anyways, perfect. Then it's okay that we lost that house. So it's not that I'm trying to get you to pay the most. I'm trying to get you to really put into perspective what it's worth to you, what it's worth for you to lose it, and what you're willing to do to win it. Those are all your decisions. And I will tell every client, it does not matter to me what you do. It matters to me that I help guide you to the decision that you're most comfortable with. And that's my job as a mom and as a realtor mom, is to guide you to where it is that you're comfortable in the process. Same thing with the seller. We have it listed at 300. You get an offer for 310, you get an offer for 305. The 310 has inspections, the 305 doesn't. We all know that an inspection could equal credits. We all know that an inspection could equal repairs. That's a $5,000 difference. When we're talking about a house, how much does that $5,000 mean to you? If you're okay with doing repairs and you just want the $5,000 and you think you can do whatever repairs might come for less, go for the 310. I get it. But some people don't have the time, they don't have the resources, and therefore maybe 305 is the better decision. Of course, for me as an agent, 310 is going to put more commission in my pocket. But again, it's not about the commission. It's about what's best for the client. And if 305 makes more sense, makes it easier for the client, and in the end, more cost effective for the client, then I'm going to recommend the 305. And as long as you're comfortable with it, that's perfect. That's what I want for my clients. So I don't want you to accept a bad offer. I don't want you to get taken advantage of. What I want you to do is make an educated choice based on both scenarios that I discuss with you, and however that may be, ultimately, whatever's best for you as my client. So As we go through the process, I'm also going to guide you through the steps. This is where we have the offers. This is where we do, the inspections. Now we did the inspection. Here's what has come back. Here's what I think is reasonable based on the cost. We can go back to market if you're the seller and, you decide that, yeah, they're ridiculous. They want all these things done. They're paying way under the value. They bought it for this price and all of these things adds another $50,000. Well, then they should have paid $50,000 more. Whatever the case may be, I'm going to guide you. And as I said, it's ultimately your decision. Same thing with a buyer. If you are doing your inspection and you got the house for the price you wanted, and then we find out there's a bunch of $20 items that, aren't exactly up to code, or, there's an outlet here, there's this minor, section of the house trim that's got a hole in it or whatever. It's ultimately not a safety issue. It's more of a cosmetic thing. Do you want to nitpick everything in the inspection to ultimately lose the house? Or are those things that you can handle? Whereas, let's just say we find this foundation issue. Okay, well, the foundation and an electrical outlet are both safety items, but an electrical outlet might cost $30 where a foundation might cost $20,000. We don't know. We have to evaluate those individually. And I'd rather you lose $450 on the cost of the inspection if there's a $30,000 issue that you're going to have down the road. So we'll go through that inspection and decide what's really important. Are you willing to walk away on your dream house for 4 or 5 $30 fixes? Or are you going to say, okay, let's negotiate through this and move forward with the transaction? So ultimately, I'm going to give you the tough love that you need to get through those decisions. It's always going to be your choice. It's always going to be up to you what you do. And I'm going to guide you through it, keeping it emotionless for me because my job is to take out the emotion. You can be emotional as a buyer because it's your decision, but ultimately, I'm going to help you find the house that makes the most sense for you. I'm going to help you as a seller get the most that I can for you and keeping that process simple so you don't have to stress about all the little things. Obviously, as a realtor, I'm not for everybody. If you want somebody who's just going to nod and agree with you and tell you all the things that you want to hear, you're probably not going to want to work with me because that's not how I operate. If I'm honest with you and that's going to offend you, might not want to work with me in that situation either. Again, I'll always be respectful, but I'm always going to be honest and I'm always going to tell you the truth in what I think about a property, what I think about your property, the property you're going to buy. For me, it's really not about the commission. Sure, I need to feed my family. I need to take care of certain things, but it's ultimately about my clients because taking care of my clients, the commission will follow. Taking care of my clients will lead to better service, which leads to more clients down the road. If I were always just looking out for my commission, eventually there's going to be no one left that's going to want to work with me because I've burned all these other people. So truly, it is about the client and not about the commission. And I often say that to clients, like when they ask, oh, are you willing to reduce your commission? Are you willing to do this? Well, no, I'm not right now. It will never be about the commission. And that's a conversation on a specific house where when things come down and we need to make stuff work, I'm also willing to look at what I've got going into it and what I need to take care of on my end. So it isn't about commission. It is about the client. I'm going to give you the truth. I'm going to give you my opinion. I'm going to give you that tough love. I'm going to be your realtor mom. So for me, that's what I feel like realtor mom, that's what it means. That's why I use that in all of these videos and whatnot, because it's about being real, giving tough love, giving you the most honest guidance that I can give you, try to help you and protect you from making mistakes, ultimately making your decision, but with my expert opinion. So if you're thinking about selling, you're thinking about buying, and you want someone who's honest and in your corner, you can either DM me on Instagram. There's no pressure. You can text me. It's going to just be a real conversation. Like I said, we may not be a fit, and that's okay, but I will do everything I can to protect every client that I work with. I'm Rebecca Nadelka, your realtor mom, and I will keep the process simple, smooth, and sold. And I'll see you in the next episode.